I apologize first for being late this evening. I had another function in Springfield, and I thought I might actually get here on time, except I had to park about a quarter of a mile down the road. So congratulations to
yeah, way to go!
I have to confess, I've never had to speak in front of an angry mob before. So, all right.
Racist angry mob.
That's a racist angry mob, yes. I can't believe what's going on in this country. Look, I love my country. Washington's broken, and it's spending far too much money. I don't think anybody in here thinks differently. My name is Tom Wesley. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm a candidate for Congress here in the 2nd District. Someone else said that earlier today. This is interesting. So in the last 14 years, there hasn't been a viable candidate against the incumbent Richard Neal, who has held the seat now for 22 years, on top of Ed Bolton, who held it for 35 years, 57 years of single-party rule. And this year we've got 2 candidates, so you've actually got a choice. And I think what it is, though, is it's telling you that we have enough people out here in this country who are ready to take back control of the government.
Yeah. Woo! There you go, Tom.
And I firmly believe that the last Republican standing after the primary is going to defeat Richard Neal and remove him from office.
Yes, yes. Woo!
Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an academy graduate. I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Went on active duty in the Navy and took an oath of office as an ensign to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And once upon a time, all of those enemies seemed to be on the other side of the fence.
Right.
On the pointy edge of the sword. We could protect America. Well, it seems now that all the bad guys are on the inside. We need to go to Washington to clear them out. We used to go to the Western Pacific to do that. Now we have to go to Washington. I deployed as a Navy pilot to the Western Pacific during the Cold War. And I served under Ronald Reagan as Commander-in-Chief. Came back and served in the Pentagon with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, also with the Chief of Naval Operations. So I've got some Washington experience. Not too much, but a nice good season of it. I've done business in Washington. I've lived on Capitol Hill. This is what happens to our politicians when they go down there with all good intentions. They go to Washington and they come down with this disease that I've identified. I call it Potomac fever. So when they go down there with all great intentions, reading the front page of the Washington Post, and as time progresses, they put the front page away and they reach the society section. They start asking themselves, who sat close to the president in Kennedy Center? Who got invited to the state dinner? Who's on Meet the Press this afternoon? And the yardstick that they use to measure their performance is that of their colleagues and peers of the political class that resides in Washington, and not the people like you and I who live along the main streets of the 2nd Congressional District. And that's where it all goes wrong. There are 3 types of people in Washington. These days there are plenty of Democrats. And there's a lot of Republicans, fewer, but there's a whole bunch of incumbents. And they are the single biggest special interest that there is in this country, this political class, and we should throw all of the bums out.
Yes.
Look, I spent some time in the Navy and I spent some time in business. I went working with some Fortune 500 companies, high-tech companies, in aerospace and defense. Had marketing and sales positions, progressively increasing in responsibility as my career grew. I had my own company for about 5 years involved in aerospace exporting. I got involved in operations side of the business. I work in life sciences now. I've actually operated, run, and manufactured products right here in the United States of America. I know what it takes to manufacture product here. I know what it takes to keep jobs here. I know what it takes to get jobs back here based upon my experience. And right now I live in Hopedale. I work in Milford for a large life science company, a multinational, $1.5 billion company. I do their strategic planning for them. I run a few other programs as well. But I've been involved in the world for a long, long time. In 1975, I took my first trip abroad with a sea bag in one hand and a sextant in another, and left on a 6-month deployment, and I haven't stopped traveling since. Not as a tourist, but as an international businessman. I've conducted business around the world. Different cultures, different languages, negotiating each step along the way. And that's, what, almost 35 years ago, I guess, you do the math. It's a lot of trips around the world. It's a lot of worldly experience. That, I think, is what we need to bring to Washington these days, is someone with a global perspective. It is a tough world out there. A lot of bad neighborhoods. But I do believe that there is more that keeps us together than divides us. And what I've learned from many, many conversations that I've had with people around the world is they want three things for their families. They want to live in peace. They don't want bullets and bombs blowing up around them. They don't want the government on their backs. Secondly, they want to enjoy the dignity and know the dignity of human labor. They want to have a job. They want to provide for their families. And thirdly, they want to pass along something for their family in the future. It sounds a lot like the aspirations that I have for my family and probably the aspirations that you have for yours. But I also know it's a dangerous world out there. I know that because I've walked these mean streets of the world. I've been involved in many things in business, and I've been along the edges of fighting the bad guys. But I can tell you just even my business experience, beyond chasing Soviet submarines around the Pacific as I did years ago, I've worked, or I've done business in the World Trade Center. I've entertained windows of the world. I used to do business with customs in the World Trade Center. I used to work in the E-ring of the Pentagon, the target of terror. I used to dine in the Taj Mahal Hotel, the target of terror. I used to stay in the Sheraton Baghdad Hotel that was blown up, the target of terror. The Islamabad Marriott, blown up, the target of terror. These things are very, very personal to me. And like many of you, you probably lost some people that you knew and loved during 9/11. So while I understand that most people around the world want the same three things for their families and their futures that you do, it's a dangerous world out there. So Homeland Security is a very, very vitally important aspect for us to protect. We can't afford to keep wars going with no end in sight. 9 years and counting in Afghanistan with no endgame strategy. You can't wear people out over and over again on endless deployments, putting people in harm's way in great stressful situations. Our armed forces are not built for that, and our country is not built to support that. We're going to take the fight to the enemy. We need to do that more with special operations forces and more exotic methods. Homeland Security also involves immigration control, particularly along our southern border. And I've gone on record and put out press releases and challenged Richard Neal to talk about this issue. Richard Neal is a pro-amnesty congressman. He co-sponsors the bills, has co-sponsored at least 2 bills regarding giving amnesty to illegals. I do not believe that that is the proper path for us. We need to build a wall as wide and as tall as it takes to secure our borders. That is the #1 function of government.
Yes. Woo! That's right.
There'll be a time in America when we have to discuss what are we going to do with everybody who's here. But you can't have that discussion until you can seal the borders with great confidence. And you also have to work on the middle piece of this, which is the immigration control for people who want to come here legally. The people who do come here legally can't extend their visas. The people who come through normal ports of entry and then disappear into the netherworlds of the United States. We need to control that too, and that calls for drastic reform. We have to attack it from all angles. The people who are coming across from the South, some of them just want a better life. Others are bringing a despicable life with them. Drugs, violence, gangs, kidnapping. We don't need that. We need to take care of that. We are not going to enjoy an economic recovery until we can bring back jobs to this country. And that's remarkably important. Jobs, jobs, and jobs. I think what happens with our outsourcing is that government policy is what dictates what corporations do. The government policy has chased more jobs offshore than greedy corporations, I can guarantee you that. Education reform is important for us as well, because we need to create people who come out of high school that are prepared to meet a job market that exists for them and are prepared to contribute to it immediately. We need to increase the numbers of math, science, and engineering people, so that if you look at the situation we have now with 17+ million people unemployed or underemployed, we have 2 million jobs we can fill, because we have a mismatch in skills. Immigration reform is needed to keep those people who are coming here to the best universities and colleges in the world from going back home and providing their innovation to the home countries where they came from instead of helping us out here and creating new products for the future. Look, running out of time, I want to leave a couple of minutes of questions for you. Let me just close by saying, I am your neighbor. I live in Oakdale, that doesn't really matter. I'm your neighbor because I think like you do, I value things like you do. I'm still a scoutmaster in Troop 1 in Oakdale because these things are important to me. Right? While I travel around the world, I come back to immigration every time and I kiss the ground because there's no country in this world like the United States.
Yeah, right on.
And I will not let the administration take that away from me. And this is our time. And I'll tell you, as everybody else has said here, everyone in this room who's addressed you tonight as a candidate needs your support, needs you to commit yourself right now to making a change in this country, which begins in 111 days, I think, tomorrow. So we have a primary in about 62 days as of tomorrow. I need your help. I'm Tom Wesley. I'm your neighbor. This is our Congress, and this is our time. Thank you. Let's repeal Richard Neal, and God bless America.